Morning. This is Nick and Jessica. This is our first video assignment for Wildlife 468. Today we'll be reviewing lecture and reading material regarding an introduction to spatial ecology.
In this introduction, we learned about different ecologies, such as landscape ecology, which is the relationship between landscape patterns, spatial differences, and ecological processes, as well as spatial ecology, which is the movement and tracking of animal and plant species dispersion, and community ecology, which is population density and organizational structure among animals across time and space.
We're going to be talking a lot about space throughout this lesson, so to give it a definition, we can call space a boundless, three-dimensional extent where objects and events occur with relative position and direction. There are also three general rules of space that are very useful to today's lesson. When there are two objects, we'll call them x and y. X's effects on y decrease as the distance between them increases. Also important is Tover's law, which describes that the properties of two objects are more similar in closer proximity to each other. A big rule for space and spatial ecology as a whole is that scale matters. When we are investigating or making maps, scale should be at the forefront of our minds.
We also learned about spatial aspects. X and Y coordinates give us the locations of data according to the locations of other positions. Spatial autocorrelation includes the magnitude, spatial scale, and the directionality of data values as a function of distances between data, and spatial relationships between abiotic variables significantly affect the responses of biotic and ecological factors.
Spatial legacy describes the effects of past spatial patterns on current ecological and species patterns. Spatial contingency can be described as a nearby neighbor or a location's influence on ecological processes. A landscape's effects on animal movements and spatial patterns could be described as spatial perception. Finally, a way to describe multiple spatial scales is when other spatial scales influence a current one. These are just 7 key takeaways from the reading regarding spatial aspects.
When it comes to conservation and spatial ecology, space is essential for biodiversity mapping and ecosystem services. Space also gives guidance for mitigating effects of environmental change.
Additionally, spatial ecology can highlight priorities of areas of conservation, or where more work should be put into. It also provides key tools and models that are used in conservation practices.
An example we found with research using spatial ecology is blue whale conservation in New Zealand. Researchers used spatial ecology to reveal the first population abundance estimate of blue whales in New Zealand. We also used spatial ecology to find out krill populations in nearby waters. The use of spatial ecology could transform these waters into marine mammal sanctuary.
This is significant to conservation because spatial ecology not only found an estimated range of our species in question, but also their food source. By finding these two measures, it is possible to form an area to protect these animals, in this case, a marine mammal sanctuary. Stop recording.